Hey, it's Matt Moscona. You found it. It's AFR Saints, your home for daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Please subscribe, smash the like button, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And our content this football season is presented by BetUS. Score a 150% bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your next two deposits up to $2,000 when you use the promo code YouTube150. Enjoy the video. Who dat?
Well, the task at hand, most of them have their families here with them, so that's a big relief for them, and they're able to focus on the football. We understand that and the things that we do in football is a small mechanism in the game of life and how this hurricane is going to affect people, but we are focused and we're trying to get ready for a game, and everybody's here and their families here. That makes it a lot easier.
That is Bucs coach Todd Bowles. Of course, the Bucs evacuated Tampa ahead of Milton. They've spent the week here in New Orleans getting set for the game Sunday against the New Orleans Saints. Pat Donovan's part of the Bucs radio network, the pre- and post-game host. You also catch him on 95.3 WDAE. Good enough to join us for a couple of minutes. Pat, we appreciate it, man. How are you?
Doing well, man. Good to be with you.
It's our pleasure. Obviously, everyone here is thinking of everyone there in the path of the storm. Can you just kind of give us an update of what it's like there as you all make the final preps?
Yeah, and thank you. And, of course, we don't have to tell you guys about hurricanes. Unlike most places in the country, you guys get it. But, right now it's a little rainy, a little windy out here. I'm just north of Tampa Bay, so I'm inland enough where it's not going to be too big of a deal. But as you just mentioned, the Buccaneers left yesterday to make sure they didn't have to deal with any of this. And that's probably a good thing for them because it's just the type of thing where you don't want to be having to deal with trying to get up there through this mess that could be here within a couple of days.
Hey, Pat, just jog our memory here, man. The Saints a couple of years played a quote-unquote home game against Green Bay in Jacksonville. So, everybody, we've all at some point seen this. Has Tampa had to be displaced or gone through this, the football team, in any time recently under Bowles where they've got these systems or protocols in place?
Listen, they're always prepared because just like in New Orleans, right, like this could happen at any moment. It's just kind of something that we deal with living in this part of the world. So it's something that there's always kind of a plan in place for. The closest thing I can remember, and I don't recall the season, but there was a year where they had to basically move the bye week to week one because of a hurricane that happened out of nowhere, and there was just nowhere to get the game played that week. I don't know if you remember this, but they ended up having to take their bye week one and play the entirety of the season without a bye week because of a hurricane.
That's brutal. It's just one of those ancillary things I know that sometimes we have to talk about, but on the field, the Bucs have been actually a pretty good story to talk about. I think everyone kept waiting for maybe the clock to strike midnight on Baker Mayfield, but win the division last year, and here they go again right there tied with Atlanta at the top. Through 5 weeks, what's been maybe the biggest storyline surrounding the Bucs?
I think overall the offense and the progression of the offense under new offensive coordinator Liam Cohen. I think a lot of people knew mostly what to expect out of this defense, and with some of the injuries, I think the results haven't been a huge surprise. But what they were going to do differently offensively was a big topic coming into the season. It struck me during training camp that every single offensive player you talked to spoke about how much more complex this offense was, how many more opportunities this offense should give them because of the way that Liam Cohen was going to call the offense, the different things they were going to do, the fact that Baker Mayfield would have two plays in his pocket every time he went to the line of scrimmage, which is something they didn't do last year. So he was going to have a lot more responsibility in this offense. A lot of players thought they were going to have a lot more opportunities in this offense. And even though it's been a little bit up and down the second half, they kind of fell off last week, and certainly against Denver, it didn't look good. You can see a lot of reasons why all the players and fans are much more optimistic about this offense under Liam Cohen as opposed to what they saw last year under Dave Canales.
We'll get right back to the video, but want to take an opportunity to remind you about our friends at BetUS. Great partners here on AFR Saints all football season. If you're going to sports bet like I do, use BetUS. The interface is so easy. We'll show it to you in a second, but here's the incentive to do it. A 150% bonus on your first deposit, 125% bonus on your next two deposits up to $2,000. Use the promo code YouTube150 when you sign up. Let me show you how easy it is to use BetUS. Let's say you want to bet on the NFL. You hit the football toggle down. Let's go NFL odds week 6. They'll pull up all right here. So easy. The Saints and Bucs line is off the board right now because of the Derek Carr injury. So let's say we want to look at Thursday Night Football. Niners and Seahawks. Man, the Niners on the road in Seattle. Seattle always tough, short week up there in Seattle. Man, kind of like the Hawks with those 3.5 points. So choose that. We'll come over here to the bet slip. How much do we want to risk? Let's say $25. Place my bet. It's going to ask me to confirm. Once that confirmation tab pops up, bada bing, bada bang, bada boom, we are locked in there with our bet. It's just that easy at BetUS. So take advantage of this great sign-up offer right now. A 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, 125% on your next 2 deposits, up to $2,000. Use the promo code YouTube150. Enjoy the rest of the video. Is there, like for example, the Saints with Clint Kubiak, we know they're using a wide zone. So it's very obvious when you watch them, like they are running stretch plays in the wide zone to get to the edges. Is there a noticeable difference that a fan would see when they watch the Bucs this year under Liam Cohen as opposed to last year under Dave Canales?
Well, one thing that Liam Cohen wants to do, and we've seen this a lot in Los Angeles for years, right, where obviously he came from before he was at Kentucky as the offensive coordinator, obviously was a coach there in Los Angeles where he got to know Baker Mayfield a little bit, why they brought him in here. But what they're doing a lot is they're utilizing a lot of condensed splits, right? They're bringing their offensive weapons in towards the offensive line a little bit as opposed to having guys spread out wide, a lot more bunch sets in this offense. And really what Liam Cohen has done, and you can see it, early in the season, even though there's some things they really need to improve on, including getting Luke Gedeke back at right tackle just so that Baker Mayfield has enough time to get rid of the football. But he's doing a really good job of scheming guys open. I remember it was, I think, Chris Godwin who noted he was going to be playing the same position that Cooper Kupp plays in Los Angeles or does when he's healthy, right? Mm-hmm. And we've seen how many times that guy's been just open in space. And it's not because he's one of the best athletes in all of football. It's because of that offense, and it's some of the things they're trying to do here.
Pat Donovan is with us. He's on Twitter, X at Pat Donovan Radio, Bucs pre- and post-game host there on the radio network. Also, 95.3 WDAE, where you can get him. Mike Evans just as steady as she goes, man. Just like maybe one of the best receivers in football that nobody ever really talks about a bunch. With Evans and Godwin, that's still enough, or there are other weapons offensively there that we need to know?
Well, listen, they're really high on their rookie receiver, even though he's had a bit of a quiet start to the year. Jalen McMillan, he can do some really good things, although we don't know that we'll see him on Sunday. Obviously, he missed this last game, so he's got a hamstring going on, so we don't know if he'll be out there. Trey Palmer, a kid they took in the 6th round last year, can do some good things in the passing game. But, I think what can easily be overlooked right now is a guy with those 2 guys out, like Sterling Shepard, who's, as you know, a guy who's been in this league for a long time. Play has really fallen off in recent years, but has that relationship built in from his year with Baker at Oklahoma. And those 2 guys are just psyched to play with each other. Did have a touchdown in this past game. And he's a guy that, is just reliable. They know he's going to run the right route and can get lost underneath when you're focused on guys like Chris Godwin, like Mike Evans. So he's another guy that'll do some things. And listen, the rookie Bucky Irving, he had a late fumble in this past game against Atlanta that was costly, but he is an explosive little back. He doesn't go down on contact the first time. And he's a guy that I think eventually is going to take more and more carries from Rachaad White. And the more comfortable he gets at this level, I think can be a real weapon for this football team that for a 4th-round pick, I don't think people saw coming.
Pat, we were talking on the other side of the ball yesterday about this Tampa defense. You got a guy like Bowles there. It maybe caught a little, little off guard at how poor statistically they've done, at or near the bottom of the league in most major statistical categories. Sometimes stats can be misleading. How challenging has it been defensively for Tampa so far through 5 weeks?
Well, it's really interesting because of the way this league is now, right? There's no such thing as an elite defense or the dominant defense in today's NFL. You're not allowed to be with the rules, right? So you have to be opportunistic, in my opinion, in this league. You can bend but don't break. And to an extent, that's what they've done. It's why they're off to a 3-2 start and really should be 4-1. Should have won that game against Atlanta. But the reality is, at the same time, they just don't get enough pressure off the edge. Yaya Diaby was a really good rookie last season and has gotten off to a bit of a slow start this year, but it's kind of Yaya and everybody else at outside linebacker. And again, Yaya's off to a slow start. So while they've got a horse like Vita Vea, who, by the way, has been in and out in the middle of the defense, who can create a lot of push in the middle of the pocket when he's in there, 10 sacks, by the way, the last 2 games since he's returned, as opposed to 2 going into the last 2 games. Over the first 3 games, they only had 2 sacks. So they're missing a lot of pieces, especially in the middle of the football field, which is why Kirk Cousins just had a field day this past Sunday. Their best and fastest middle linebacker, Servassier Dennis. I shouldn't say best. I mean, Levante David's their best by a long shot, right? But Servassier is their best guy in coverage. He's out. At one point last week, you were without your 2 safeties as well, and they just took advantage of the middle of that football field all game long. And I expect New Orleans, if Antoine Winfield Jr. is not back, because Servassier will not be, I think they'll take advantage the same way, just going over the middle of the field, because it was just wide open all last week. But there's some things they do really well here, especially when everybody's healthy. But at the same time, they don't get pressure off the edge. And, if you don't get pressure on the quarterback in this league, they're going to have a fun day.
Yeah. The tricky part for the Saints this week, obviously, is who's going to play quarterback. So there's a giant unknown there. And the Bucs have had the opportunity to play a few rookie quarterbacks already this year. So see which it is, Haener or Rattler for New Orleans. Pat, I'm curious from the Tampa perspective how big this game is. Listen, the last 2 weeks, Tampa and New Orleans both just gagged away games against Atlanta. I mean, it's you all are feeling exactly what we were a week ago. You're just scratching your head wondering how in the world you lost that game, but it's the reality. And the Saints are sitting there at 2-3, Tampa's at 3-2. You wouldn't think one game is a massive difference, but for New Orleans, if they fall to 2-4 with a couple of division losses already, it's hard to see a path out. What about for Tampa at 3-2? How big is this game when you start to look at what's ahead for the Bucs?
I think it's a massive game for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's your second consecutive road divisional game, so you want to try to pick one of those up, right? But also, you are coming off a loss where you're as disappointed as you are about the way you finished against Atlanta. So I think you want to try to rebound from that. On top of that, this is a week where you look at it, and even though the Buccaneers have been displaced and are practicing at Tulane, and this is an odd week, they also played Thursday night last week. So they're on 10 days before Sunday, whereas New Orleans, as you know, just played on Monday night. So they're on a short week. The Bucs have extra time. This is the kind of game where you kind of need to take advantage of things like that. And, by the way, you look ahead on the schedule and you've got Atlanta again, you've got Baltimore, you've got Kansas City, you've got San Francisco. It is a very difficult schedule between this game and the bye week for the Buccaneers, which is like 10 or 11. And you don't want this thing to turn into a losing streak. So I think for that reason alone, the matchups ahead, this is a big game for the Buccaneers as well.
Tampa, 3.5-point favorite in the Dome, Sunday noon. Saints and Bucs will renew the divisional rivalry. He's Pat Donovan, radio pre and post there on the Bucs Radio Network. Hey, Pat, good luck with the storm, man. Stay safe. Everybody here is certainly thinking about it and praying for everybody down there. And we appreciate you taking the time to join us here today for a couple of minutes, man.
Well, thank you. And I know I can speak for the Buccaneers and everybody with the Bucs about how much they appreciate the way they've been taken care of since they've gotten to town. So it'll be a weird thing where we kind of pretend to hate each other on Sunday, but we have this weird appreciation for each other as well.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Thank you for the time, okay?
Anytime.
Thanks so much for watching the video. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, hit the bell so you're notified when we post a new video, and remember to support BetUS, where right now you can get a 150% bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000. Be sure to use that promo code YouTube150.